Shall we begin?
You are now listening to an altogether less fashionable variety of soccer podcast. Broadcasting live from the capital city of Columbus, Ohio. Welcome to
ACES Radio.
I got the new wings with the Zima flavor sauce.
I've given this no thought whatsoever.
Hashtag probably riding cock.
They're in your face. They're a little different. I think it's super cool. I love them. Jamie, ignorant slut.
Hold on to your butts.
Now, here are your hosts.
Not Morgan Hughes. Rest.
John Zadar. And Darby Schnarpus.
Greetings, edgelords, shitlords, and bezlords. You have made quite possibly the greatest mistake of your life in tuning into another episode of ACES Radio, the podcast that's about soccer in a year in which soccer is not really a thing. I am joined tonight, as always, by one of the truest lads in the game, a guy who was actually awake this week when we went to record the podcast. Everybody's favorite bucket boy, Brent Miller. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing pretty good, Drabs. Thanks for that great intro. It's nice to hear you actually give some legitimate praise.
And I'm in mid-season form right now as we wind down the tournament. So what's been new in your life? Have you been visiting the pool of contagion here in the past week?
I actually have, and the hotel is significantly less busy than it has been, so it's actually not been too bad. I was also at B-Dubs tonight for buy one, get one boneless wing night. Had a few drinks there, so it's been a pretty good day.
Okay, so now are you sitting inside the restaurant? Are you doing the patio thing?
No, we were at the bar.
Okay. So are they doing where you are? Are they doing like social distancing within the bar or limiting capacity? Or are they like, fuck it, everybody come in?
No, they're doing social distancing. They have like several chairs in between each group or person, as the situation may be.
Okay. So, and thus far, despite licking all the masks, it doesn't sound like you are coronavirus positive. You don't sound as though you are in the process of dying, so we're glad to hear that.
Yeah, no, solid, healthy, doing well.
All right. Well, thank you for asking how I'm doing. I'll just take a minute to say things are great here in the Schnarfus household. Got a new, basically been taking the opportunity to try and inject money into the economy. I've hit the phase in this world where I'm like, I don't care if there's economic uncertainty. I'm just going to spend money on things I don't necessarily need. So yeah, we've got the new treadmill, got a new TV for upstairs. I've got a sound bar coming for the downstairs TV. Like, I'm assuming that I will probably contract the virus and die. So I might as well spend all my money while I have it.
Would you like to send me some cash?
From what I understand from past episodes, you worked yourself into quite a pay increase, so you can kindly get fucked.
But it sounds like you're just trying to blow through your money. So if you're trying to get rid of it, I'll happily take some off your hands, Drabs.
Well, basically, I've become Kristen's sugar daddy at this point. Like, I'm just throwing the cash around for her love and affection. After being locked in the same house for 4.5 months now, there's definitely a non-zero chance she's going to murder me at some point. So I'm
she finally found out about the horse that you keep on the side?
Damn it. God, I hate you so much. I hate you so very much. No, she's just, she's had enough of my bullshit. She's like, go do more podcasts. Go do some more dungeoning and dragoning. If you want to pick up a hobby, if you want to play in traffic, whatever you want, just get out of my face. So I'm trying to respect that. Anyway, now that we both discussed what's happening in our very exciting and important lives, it is time to introduce this week's super secret special guest host. This is somebody that most of you know. If you've listened to the podcast, you have heard him before, although you haven't always known he was there or who he was. Because much like Batman, it is essential that he keep his secret identity a secret. However, he made the foolish decision today to come join us on this Trash Pocket. Everybody, please welcome me. Don't welcome me. We'll cut that in post in 3, 2, 1, clap. Everybody, please welcome the Stank Lord, Andy Stanky.
Oh, hey, Darby. Brent, thanks for having me. Great to be here. Great to be back, I should say.
I mean, you say great to be here, but when you say here, what you were referring to is your own house.
It's my own house. And it is great to be here in my own house. I didn't have to leave, so...
What Darby doesn't
right.
realize is that we're both, upstairs at his residence.
Yeah.
Well, that's really weird because I'm also upstairs, so I wish you would get out from under the bed. I can see your foot right now. You're doing a terrible job of concealing yourself.
It's
you
about
can see
time.
most
We
of
were trying to make it obvious.
You can see most of my legs, let's be honest.
That's true. Yeah, there is no hiding under a bed when it comes to Andy Stanky. Something is going to be sticking out in any direction, no matter what way you're looking. So how are you doing, buddy? How have things been in the Stanky household here recently?
Things at Stank Manor have been pretty good. Spent a lot of time running the Stank Prince back and forth from various soccering activities. He's been doing some camps in and around the area and having a good time. So that's pretty much summer.
Yeah, and how are those camps going? Like, are they taking precautions? How have those changed relative to years past?
I would say his club's done a really good job of communicating procedures and expectations to parents and to the players. We've been pretty pleased with how they've handled distancing and keeping the kids separate. But every time he goes to a camp, they've got cones set up that are 6 feet apart. They've got to put all their stuff and their water at their cone. As soon as they take a water break, they've got to go to their spot, sit down. They can't horse around and jump on each other. And so they're doing their best to keep, a bunch of 9-year-olds from being all over each other, which is quite a task. So,
sure. So how are the kids reacting to that? Are they holding on to it pretty well?
Yeah, for the most part. They're still kids. But gosh, they're resilient. They're probably in a lot of ways more resilient than we are when it comes to this stuff. But he's done a good job, and we've been pretty happy with his coaches and his teammates and how they've handled it. So it's been good. In fact, this club this week, in light of everything's asking any parents that are staying to watch practice to wear masks, and the kids wear masks until they get to the practice field. Then they can take them off when they're running around, and then as they leave, they have to put them back on. So they're doing what they can. So we're pretty pleased with all that. Nice.
So how's the Stank Princess entertaining herself these days?
She's watched Hamilton 300 times, I think.
Haven't we all?
In fact,
no, we haven't.
You uncultured barbarian.
Sorry, haven't seen it once yet.
She has been, she's been watching Hamilton. In fact, she put it on tonight. She goes, "Dad, I almost made it a week without watching Hamilton." I'm not sure that's entirely true, but we're going to give it to her. But she dances, and she's got a couple performances coming up next week. And she also plays the clarinet, and she's been taking virtual clarinet lessons all summer with actually a friend of mine from college that I knew and know. Who is a fantastic clarinet teacher. So she's been keeping busy, and we had a little Stank family get together in Hocking Hills with my parents and my siblings, including the much maligned youngest Stank, Jake. So It was a good time.
Rightfully much maligned.
The rightfully he's rightfully maligned. It's true.
The stank rankings are an official thing, and Jake is consistently at the bottom.
Yeah, he's one of the lowest performing lads, for sure. But he's first in our hearts.
Well, he holds a position in our hearts.
he is a placeholder in the hearts of all.
All right. Well, I suppose we could talk about soccer, I guess, or whatever. Not that we necessarily saw much in the way of soccer in the past week. Oh, LOL, sob. So let's talk about Columbus Crew versus Minnesota United. This past Tuesday, there was allegedly.
Do we have to?
Must we?
Well, it's that, or actually, no. There's just no other options, because if this devolves into a bunch of horse jokes, I'm out, and I will mute both of you and just end it right there. But so anyway, yes, the opening game for the Crew in the knockout round against Minnesota, your lineup was basically the closest you had to a first choice starting 11 these days. You had Andrew Tarbell in goal. Across the back line was Awful, Mensah, Keita, and Valenzuela. Your midfield boys, Darlington Nagbe and Artur. In front of them, you had Diaz, Zelarayan, and Pedro. And then Jossie up top. Your subs, Derek Etienne came on for Diaz at halftime. Jimenez came on for Valenzuela in the 64th minute. Cadden for Nagbe in the 75th. Adi for Jossie in the 83rd. And Caleb Porter kept the final sub in his pocket for the next tournament to be played at a time to be determined. You had just one lone goal in this game. Unfortunately, it did not belong to anybody wearing... you did have a goal in this game from Jossie in the 79th minute. You had no goals from the run of play. You had a blocked penalty kick, but thankfully he had good heads up and was able to get the rebound off of his own shot. Also, I guess Ozzy Alonso scored at some point in the game, but nobody cares about him because he's a dick. Then we went to penalty kicks there after 90-some minutes because apparently MLS doesn't believe in extra time in this tournament, and they're just making up the rules as they go. The Crew ultimately lost PKs 5-3. You had, let's see, what's the official run here? I should really prepare for this stuff better, but at this point I just don't care. Oh, Ozzy Alonso scored in the shootout. I don't even remember who scored for them in the actual game. Is that the Lud guy, Lod? What a terrible last name.
Lad?
Yeah, so shootout, Ozzy Alonso scored, got answered by Fernando Adi. John Grey Goose, not named after the vodka, scored for Minnesota next. Pedro answered. Big Celery scored for Minnesota on the third shot for them. Chris Cadden kicked a ball towards the goal, and we all saw what happened there. Raheem Edwards scored for Minnesota. Lucas answered there, and Chase Gasper for Minnesota scored their fifth and final shot, making our last shot irrelevant. This was a depressing and ultimately boring game to watch, as far as I was concerned. This felt a lot like a Berhalter game to me. It was one of those things where you won so many statistics on paper and it just didn't matter. Brent Miller, what the hell was going on in this game?
Yeah, I'm not sure what was going on. This definitely was not the same Crew team as the first three games that we saw in the group stage. The passes were sloppy. They were not taking the space that they should have been and trying to force passes into tight areas. Not sure what was happening, but it was really uninspired and really disappointing.
For sure. Andy, we saw against Red Bull that Crew seemed like they had a high press really well handled. I mean, that was Brent and I discussed on the last episode. Just that was the best they've ever looked against Red Bull. Minnesota kind of came in a similar fashion, maybe not pressing quite as high, but definitely pressing throughout the game, and the Crew just had no answers. What did you see going on?
Well, I mean, the strength of the first three games was the connection that Artur and Nagby had. They were doing a really great job of winning balls at midfield, distributing out wide, and we just didn't see that. I mean, Nagby was completing almost all of his passes, and it looked like he was turning the ball over left and right the other day. Not that that. Bad outing or whatever doesn't diminish the fact that he's a terrific player for us, but they just didn't seem in rhythm at all in the center of the pitch, and I think that was really the root of our struggle.
Absolutely, yeah, and it seemed as though Artur was struggling with much of the same in terms of trying to make those passes that were breaking the lines, and they just inevitably went to the wrong team.
Yeah.
If you look on paper, overall, the team had 89% passing accuracy, which is good. You had 65% possession, which is good. But it did seem like a lot of that was sort of slowly passing around the back line, trying to figure out the holes as, especially later in the game, Minnesota started bunkering a lot deeper. The Crew had 20 shots. Which you would certainly hope some of those go in. I think they won the expected goals battle by, I think it was almost 3-1, but nothing really seemed to go in. We did have 20 crosses in the game. I feel like that was the only idea the team had a lot of times, and it clearly wasn't effective. Did anybody on the field stand out for either of you in a positive way? I mean, I know it wasn't a great result, but did anyone catch your eye?
I think it's... Go ahead,
Brent. Well, I was just going to say, I think Jossie Zardes was putting himself in good positions, which is one of the things that Jossie does so well. But he just wasn't getting the service. I mean, there were... I think it was... Somebody tweeted about it today, just that... maybe it was Jacob Myers. Just that clip with Pedro's got the ball coming forward and Jossie is getting in behind the defender, and then the ball just doesn't get to Jossie's feet. And we've seen him, take those and put them in the net, but it just wasn't happening. Those final attacking passes were not connecting, despite his good runs and off the ball work.
Yeah, that Pedro pass, if he had tons of space in front of him, and if he forces the center back to honor him a little bit, even just with another touch or two, then Jossie has literally half the field open to him to get a pass, and instead Pedro put it right at the feet of the defender. Brent, what did you see in that game?
I think it's interesting that you mentioned Artur kind of struggling, because I don't know. I'd probably have to rewatch the game to see if I was missing something. But I actually felt like he was one of the better players on the field for us during this game. Yeah, I don't know. There wasn't. I mean, that's not saying much, because I don't think anybody did particularly well. There wasn't much that stood out to me as positive. But I don't know. I just remember thinking after the game that Artur actually seemed like he did fairly well for the night, comparatively speaking. To everybody else.
The thing is, I don't think anybody did especially bad in this game. I didn't necessarily mean to single him out. I just remember several times him trying passes that went directly to defenders. That being said, if you look at his stats overall, he may have done pretty well. But just, I think across the board, the players looked lethargic. They weren't really interested in finding open space. They weren't terrible. They just weren't good. And in this case, they weren't good enough to win, I think. Anytime you go to penalty kicks, you're absolutely opening yourself up to random ass occurrences. It's as I forget who I saw somebody say, basically, once you get to that point, it's a glorified skills competition.
Right.
And that's what it was. Yeah. I just, as I watched that game, I was not shocked by the result. They certainly didn't play well enough to earn a victory.
Credit to Minnesota. I mean, Minnesota clearly had a plan coming into the game, and they weren't, the prettiest the whole game either, but they executed their game plan better than we executed ours. So, credit to them for coming out prepared and ready to take it to us, because they definitely did.
Oh, sure. Yeah,
for sure.
They were able to get their defense organized every time very well. And I think, unfortunately, sometimes Columbus helped them by not really pressing up. It seemed like every time we were starting to get a good break, players would pull it back and give Minnesota a chance basically to bunker down, where you often saw all 11 players behind the ball. And I guess they do have a little bit of luxury in that regard, because when you have Ethan Finley on one wing, you can afford to play deep and then just kind of try and spring him up the sideline every once in a while and see what happens.
Right.
But yeah, I definitely agree. They had the right setup there. They came prepared and they showed it.
And not to use the injury bug as an excuse, but missing Room and Vito and Mokhtar, I think played a factor. Especially Mokhtar. He really, I thought, showed a lot in the first 3 games of the tournament, and having him go out in the last game was tough, because he'd really had been playing the best soccer he'd played since he'd joined the team last summer. So he was definitely missed. Yeah,
and he has that sort of take a moment and pick out the right pass kind of mentality. If Diaz and Etienne are those direct at goal guys, beat you with pace kind of players, then Mokhtar is the equivalent of what Pedro is supposed to be, in that that more technical, deliberate, cut in, make things happen kind of approach. So I do agree. He could have definitely brought something to the field that was missing. But now, there's no soccer as far as I'm concerned. Allegedly, this MLS's Back tournament continues through August 11th. That will be the championship game, because anytime you can play a championship game on a Tuesday night, you obviously go ahead and do that. That's a great ratings option for you right there. But yeah, I have gone from somebody who is not happy about this tournament but willing to watch my team play, to a person who gives zero shits about anything until such time as our team can play safely again in a real situation. Are you guys going to be watching any more of the tournament?
No, probably not.
No, I won't be either. I have no interest in any team that is left.
Yeah, and it's bad when Brent Miller isn't going to watch, because he has literally nothing to do right now. I mean, he's in the
truer words, Drabs. Truer words have never been spoken.
I mean, you're in the middle of fucking meth country. It's like you smoke meth, you go to the pool of contagion, you sleep. That's really all there is to do out there.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Yep.
I will say, I didn't think that the tournament was a great idea to start, but it seemed like MLS with the bubble at least got that part of it right. Because once the teams were in the bubble, it didn't seem like it was COVID was spreading from player to player. The teams that had problems were the guys that showed up with it. So I will give MLS a little bit of credit for creating a fairly safe environment to hold the tournament in.
That is true. In retrospect, once they got into the bubble, they did do a good job of keeping it contained, and it makes me wonder, like, if they'd have established a way maybe for teams to self-quarantine before the tournament for 2 weeks. Like, I don't know, maybe you gather your team in your own city and just like go to a hotel and stay there. And I realize it would suck, and I'm not advocating for this, but you're right. The only issues seem to be people who brought it in from the outside. So if they could have figured out a way how to do that, then they probably would have been all right. Conversely, Brent, when we look at Major League Baseball and what a shit show that's quickly becoming, we do also have an example of how not to proceed in this world. Are any Yankees dead yet from the coronavirus? Oh, Brent's not even taking the bait.
No, the Yankees so far are good. They managed to avoid the teams that have really screwed themselves. The Marlins, with their 19 positive tests.
Jesus, that's insane. How many players are on a baseball roster? I honestly have no idea. Like, is it 30, 100, 500? I have no idea.
It's a 40-man roster.
Okay, so literally almost half of their roster has tested positive. In the sport that is probably the most able to socially distance while they're on the field, because they all just stand around like 90 feet apart from each other anyway and run once every 2 hours. So I do have some concerns that if anybody tries to play normal sports in a normal setup, they're going to be what happens.
Yeah. And you've seen, with NFL players, there's been a few NFL players that have already started opting out of the season for these reasons, obviously.
Yeah. Including, 6 New England Patriots players, although they're probably opting out because the alternative is to play for Bob Kraft, and literally nobody wants to do that.
It does, though, set up an interesting scenario for if and when MLS resumes its season. How safely is that going to be able to happen?
Yes, which actually brings us to our next talking point. I do not subscribe to The Athletic because I told them to get fucked when they canceled all the local Columbus coverage. However, from what I understand, it is still a sports publication that exists and still publishes things that may or may not be news. What I did find out from other sources who then quote The Athletic, thus making them unnecessary for me to subscribe to, is there are rumors that the league is planning to resume the regular season starting August 22nd, which would be about 2 weeks after this weird-ass tournament wraps up. The statements were that the teams would play 6 games until September 13th. So it'll be in kind of phases, essentially. So there'd be a phase where they play 6 games, and then there'd be a little bit of a break, and then start playing more games. And that second run of games would be like mid-September through early November. There, of course, are going to be problems with this approach because the Canadian teams are going to have issues as far as travel and international travel and that sort of thing. NYCFC can be in trouble because now they're going to be in direct competition with Yankee Stadium for dates. There's just all kinds of, and who knows like what state or local regulations will make playing team sports infeasible in various places. But then also, according to that story, there would be a postseason consisting of 18 teams. Yay, MLS, giving everybody participation awards here. It would start on November 20th, which is now, at this point, well after MLS would prefer the season be over. And the postseason would conclude December 12th with an MLS Cup.
I mean, which that kind of lines up with about where MLS Cup has been played.
Well, in years past, before they started trying to do this, condense the schedule and move it up a little bit, I believe the MLS Cup in 2015, which did not happen. But if it had happened, I think it was either December 7th or 8th, I want to say, that it was played.
So the 6th. But
the 6th, okay. Yeah. I mean, it's close enough. So, yeah, you're talking basically within a week of when MLS Cup used to happen. And at this point, who knows if this would be a reality. That being said, what do you think of this plan? Is this something the league can actually pull off given all the constraints and all of the potential issues? Should they just pull the plug at this point after this stupid tournament's over and call it good?
I personally think that it would. I don't know. I just don't see it happening.
You don't see
with
what
the
happened?
fact that this plan, like, I don't see it being feasible. With the like you mentioned that the Canadian teams would have difficulty traveling, but then you also got to think like, as of right now, like, you're not allowed to travel from America to Canada unless you have like the right passport. Like, American passports can't travel to Canada right now.
That is very true. Yes.
You have, you know, you look at the other leagues. You were right to bring up baseball. When you're not in a bubble, this virus is going to spread. What is their plan for that? I just think there's too many issues to have a regular season that's not played out in a bubble.
Yeah. Oh, and I do think I saw somewhere that a part of this plan is that your games basically only stay within your conference. Again, this is all rumor, so I can't actually verify that it's true. You know, as big an investigatory journalist as I am, I can't swear by these things, but that would help with some of the travel aspects. And I don't think it would actually. It would create problems for Canada because Vancouver's in the West, so I'm not sure what they would do in that context. So some of these rumors clearly have to be bullshit. But I don't know which ones yet are bullshit. Because, yeah, if Canada is only playing in Canada in like a 6-game thing, that's already screwing up your schedule. But anyway, Andy, what do you think about this? Is it going to happen? Should it happen? Can it happen?
Can it happen? Yeah. I mean, we've seen, obviously Major League Baseball's, back in business, and college football still and NFL still seem to be moving forward. That said, should it happen? I don't know. I mean, you look at what's going on in Franklin County right now. I can't imagine there's a lot of MLS teams that feel like it would be a great idea to come to Columbus right now to play the Crew. So I don't know. It may be a city by city kind of a situation. If the city that you're traveling to is not looking great as far as its COVID numbers, maybe we think about avoiding those cities. I don't know. I don't have a good answer. There's a lot of variables to think about.
Yeah, we kind of discussed this, I think, last week. But since you weren't here, I'll put you on the spot. Is there a situation, if this were to happen, if they manage some sort of weird half-assed partial regular season with home games in Columbus, would you go to games? Is there a setup in the stadium in which you would feel comfortable going?
Poof. Man, I don't know.
I know it's a tough question. No judgments either way, but I'm curious.
I've thought about this because it's popped up in just casual conversations with people. I don't know if I'd feel good about it. I do have to think about, not just myself, but, the people that my being exposed potentially to COVID, how that would affect my family. My parents both have somewhat, compromised immune systems. So I don't know if it's worth putting them in jeopardy if I were to go to a Crew game and then go hang out at their house and possibly expose them. We already had a little bit of a mini scare in our family earlier in the late spring and early summer. So,
but thankfully your chlamydia test came back negative.
It came back all clear.
Yeah.
Julie must be able to. Julie must be able to hear you coming through my headphones because she's laughing. It also means her test came back good too. So.
Well, I mean, actually, you don't know that.
Well, that's true. I don't.
Yeah, and I, in messaging a little bit with John the other day, he did point out it's now been a couple of months since the crew have taken money out of our accounts. If you were on the year-round payment plan, they got suspended in, I think, either May or June. I forget which. In fact, I feel like I might have had a couple invoices that haven't paid out. And I'm not sure if that's an indicator of they're still waiting to see, because maybe we'll have potential to go to games, and so they don't want to take it. Right. I don't know, but to me it is definitely weird that they've chosen not to continue taking out money unless you asked for it, because I think there was a thing where you could request that they stop taking it out and they'd work with you. I was just I'm fully on board with the put my money towards next year. So I haven't been concerned, but I did think it's a little odd, and I wonder if that speaks to their thoughts about still playing games. I mean, I guess if these rumors are going around, the league hasn't ruled it out, but Brent, if you were back in Ohio in late August, would you have a desire to go? Would you feel safe going?
I would definitely have a desire to go. I think those are two different questions, right?
Sure. Yeah.
So I know I saw something the other day that if college football were able to be played with fans in the stadium, then Ohio State would only have 20% of their stadium capacity in their stadium. Right. So, if the crew is reducing Crew Stadium to 20% capacity and everybody's going to be spread out, then I might feel okay about going to that.
So in a stadium with 4,000 people basically is what we're talking about.
Yeah, 4,000 people spread throughout that with extreme social distancing. I might be able to do that. I don't know.
And I think so. What numerically? What the hell is 20%? I always forget what the Nordeck capacity is. It's 2,000, 3,000 with the expanded.
I
3,000 sounds about right. 2,800 maybe.
Okay, well, we'll say for the sake of argument, it's 3,000. That basically means a 600 person Nordeck. That would be an interesting experience, I would think. Even Open Cup games get more than 600 people over there. I'd be interested to see what the vibe is in that context, and if you can even really maintain social distancing well in that kind of situation.
Right. Well, and then kind of piggybacking off that, in the stadium might not be a problem, but I know one of the things that Mike DeWine said, he doesn't doubt that Ohio State can create a safe environment inside the stadium at 20% capacity, but you have no control what happens before and after the games. So
yeah, and I think
fair.
OSU was saying no tailgating. I assume that would only apply to spaces they have control over. Obviously, exactly. You can't control what idiots do, on private property. But yeah, I think they were going to have to eliminate tailgating.
Easier said than done, but
very much so.
It doesn't even discount, there's 20,000 people going to the stadium. How many people may just go tailgate and watch the game or listen to the game in a big group nearby? I don't know. There's a lot of potential scenarios.
For sure. If you think about it, while 100,000 people fit into that stadium, more than 100,000 people were in and around the stadium on game day. you know that there are people who go and tailgate and then watch the game on a TV in a parking lot somewhere. And if you can prevent that on campus, although it would probably take a shitload of cops to spread around, and God knows they're all probably still out trying to beat up protesters wherever they are. So I don't know how well Ohio State could control it. I would assume that the crew would be the same way, that if there are games, it would be a tailgate-free environment, and rightfully so, because it's, tailgating is pretty much impossible to do in a responsible fashion with those kinds of numbers. But I don't know. I guess we will see in the upcoming weeks. I have always been under the impression that this tournament was a way to waste time and for the league to buy itself time to figure out what they can do. So certainly by the end of the tournament, I would think they'd have to have some sort of announcement about what their tentative plans are. And I guess we'll see.
Yeah. But
yeah, so all the crew lads now get to go home. They get to break the bubble. I think... I would assume at this point they're probably back in Columbus, because why the hell would you spend any longer in Orlando than you had to, even in the best of times? But I do know that in the meantime, while the players were away, the team was making some efforts to take care of the families who are here back home. And for this, I'm tired of hearing from Andy, and I would like to hear from the number one Stanky who lives in Stank Manor and perhaps throughout the Stank world. Is Julie Stanky available, please?
Yes, she is.
Oh my God, everybody, ladies and gentlemen, Julie Stanky, queen of all Stankdom. How are you, my friend? How are things?
Things are okay, yeah.
Good. So, in full disclosure, Andy was not our first choice for this episode, or was not my first choice for this episode. You reached out with information about this story, which I was unaware of because I am oblivious to what happens in the world. I don't watch social media. I don't even have a Twitters, as the young say. TikTok is what a clock does. I have no idea about all these things, but you reached out and you said, hey, there's this cool thing going on. And I said, awesome, there's this really terrible podcast. Do you want to come be on it? And you basically said, if there is no other option, maybe I can help you out. And then from what I understand, Andy heard about this and he begged you. He got on hands and knees, prostrated himself before you and said, please let me be on the podcast. And you conceded. Is that basically what happened?
Yep, that's a pretty accurate depiction of what took place.
Nice. Now, were there tears involved? Did he cry? Because that...
he was blinking a lot, so I think he was welling up, but he didn't let him spill over.
Okay. Well, and with that giant bushy beard, it probably absorbed all the moisture, and you couldn't really see if it did. Because basically, it starts right below his lower eyelids and goes straight down.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. I do feel that
man.
Yeah. Charles Campinas Snow has a lot of work to do. He has a lot of growing up to do in the beard department, and
his beard is just growing down, and his is growing all directions.
Excellent. So, why don't you tell us about this story? Because, like I said, admittedly, I didn't really know what was going on until you said something.
Oh well, so I had seen a couple times while the team was in the bubble that the players or their wives had posted, usually on Instagram, pictures of like bouquets that they'd received from the front office or like edible arrangements and something like that. And then the players would, share that on behalf of their wives and basically thank the team. And so this past weekend, the team published an article about everything that they were doing to help support the players' families back home. And they basically have someone whose job it is to help the players acclimate to Columbus when they're new to the team and connect them with, resources that they need in town. And her job during this time was to actually stay home and take care of the families. And so instead of focusing on the players, she focused on, how could she help connect their families with what they needed, whether it was meal delivery or nannies if the moms had to go to doctor's appointments and stuff like that. So it was really nice to see that the team was being that intentional about it.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So, I remember reading an athletic article back when I subscribed to them about the person who did this it wound up being the person who was essentially Wayne Rooney's personal manservant eventually. I think the person started off as that team liaison and then moved on. But yeah, when guys come to a city, they don't know anything about the area, so they need help in finding apartments or getting a car, figuring out schools for their kids. So it's that person then who was looking out for the families?
Yeah, that's the impression that I got.
Nice. Yeah, maybe that's an under thought about point in all this. So at this point, the players had been gone from their homes for weeks, and all the coronavirus babies and pregnancies were in full swing. I think roughly 75% of the players on the team had a bun in the oven or recently shot out a child because they just decided, global pandemic, this is a great time to start growing the families.
Exactly.
Yeah, so these are families who could definitely use additional support during that time, and it is very cool that the team did that. I do have a sneaking sensation that maybe in certain unnamed past ownership groups, services like that might not have been so forthcoming.
They were provided, they certainly weren't mentioned, and seeing as how it was the players who were sharing appreciation for those things, it makes me think that they weren't happening.
Actually, that's not true. I'm not giving the previous ownership enough credit, because I do recall that during a certain trip to a tournament down in Austin, Texas, the previous ownership group did take all the wives and girlfriends down to Austin with the team and showed them a really good time.
Yeah, it's almost as if there was an ulterior motive there.
Perhaps. It was somewhat unusual that this trip to Austin, Texas in particular might be a time that they finally pulled out all the stops to show the families a good time. There's no way you could know, though, what sort of ulterior motive might have existed during that time.
Yeah, you couldn't base that on the timing of that trip or anything like that. They just really wanted to make sure everyone was there if the guys did have the chance to hoist the Armadillo Trophy, which sadly we did not.
Yeah, well, there's always, oh wait, no, never again. I never want to play a tournament in Austin of any sort, regardless of stupid trophy. Okay, awesome. Well, thank you for telling me about that. That's, that is one of those things that I feel like the current ownership just has to be head and shoulders above previous options. And I love that they are taking care of the families, at least if they're going to drag the guys out of town, doing something to make, the family lives a little easier is really nice. And as you know, having a completely absentee husband, it's a lot, it's pretty difficult to raise two kids without any contribution whatsoever by the father.
That's absolutely true.
Yeah.
Just to sort of bookend that, since you said you don't pay attention to social media, I can confirm that the guys are home because Darlington has been posting videos of his youngest son just following him around the house and not leaving him alone because he missed his daddy so much. So they're happy to have their families back together, it looks like. And on the note of continued games in the future, I know you guys were talking about people potentially sitting it out if there are games yet this summer. I wouldn't be shocked to see Giassi sit some out because his wife is on that list of very pregnant crew wives. So that's something to think about if we do get to see more crew soccer. Is will we get to see Giassi? Will he travel? I wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's something that we hadn't talked about. That, and again, especially with all of the guys who are soon to be or recent fathers, that's a real consideration that they have to make. I mean, they're, as much as you're pursuing your job and your passion and your paycheck, I mean, your family's going to be there once the season's over. You have to put them first and foremost. So,
absolutely.
Yeah, they could be an ugly roster when the time comes.
Yeah, it might be best if we don't have to see it.
Right. Well, we created a crew too this year, just because we don't have enough bodies to actually field a team.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right. Awesome. Yeah. Well, thank you for that. If you feel the need to put Andy back on, great. But if you want to go through our crew superlatives and award man balls and stuff, I mean, you've already contributed much more than he has to the conversation, I must say.
Oh, thank you. He's literally standing over me waiting to take his headphones back.
Is he like hopping back and forth from foot to foot? Like, is it my turn? Is it my turn? Is it my turn?
Yes, he's very nimble.
All right.
See ya.
Bye.
First of all, Darby, if I were hopping back and forth, you'd feel the tremors.
That is
down.
true. Brent, are you recording any seismic activity out where you are?
Might be.
You mean under your bed? Yes.
Brent, let me just tell you, there's always seismic activity going on when you're under my bed.
That just didn't land.
I think Brent has gotten to the point where he is denying me the gratification of any response to my jokes. He's like, dead air. I know the old man doesn't feel like editing a laugh track into the episode, so I'll just sit here silently. I think there was one point in the last episode where there was like a 7 or 8 second silence where I was just waiting for any kind of response from him at all, and the fucker would not give it to me. But then he was right. I was too lazy and I didn't edit it out. So there's that.
Yeah, that's absolutely what I'm doing. Can confirm.
Yeah. It's kind of funny because you being clever and you just not paying attention sound a lot alike.
Fair. And you know what? I don't really care which one people assume I'm doing.
All right. Well, let's talk about our crew superlative this week, which I spent literally seconds thinking about before I started the episode today. In honor of the unfortunate result on Tuesday, our question this week, among all crew players all time, what player do you not want to take the critical penalty kick in a game-winning opportunity? So, not naming names from this past week, but there was a penalty kick that was saved. When the game is on the line, throughout the history of this team, who's your like last place person to take that shot? Brent, you go first because I said so.
All right. So I'll put the preface out there that, again, I'm coming at this as a person who became a crew fan in 2008. So 2008 through now is my time frame for making this choice. I think I would have to pick Dilly Duca.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't know. I just really don't trust that dude.
I mean, that's definitely fair. Lack of trust. I don't even care about evidence. I feel like your gut instinct is dead on there. That's not a guy that the only time you want the ball at his foot when the game is on the line is when he's playing against the crew, because any former player instantly performs amazingly whenever they take the field against us.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Andy, who have you got?
I'm going to put out a trigger warning for anybody that was at the playoff game in 2004 against the Revolution. You may just want to, pause it or fast forward through this, but I'm going to go with Tony Sané, who famously missed, not just missed a penalty kick, just hit an absolute dribbler at Matt Reese during a penalty shootout that would have seen the 2004 crew advance to the next round of the playoffs. The Supporter Shield winning 2004 Columbus Crew tied our way to the Supporter Shield that year. I was in the South stands watching that PK, and it was just like the most deflating thing. So I would never, ever want to see Tony Sane take another penalty kick.
All right, I like it. So in thinking about this one myself, my first instinct, I think, was kind of an easy one. I wanted to say Danny O'Rourke. He, of the 0 goals scored in his entire Crew career, famously bad offensive efforts coming off of that lad. But then I realized my true answer, my only answer in these kind of situations, the answer I will give.
I know what you're gonna. I know what you're gonna do here.
You shut your goddamn mouth, Drabs.
Anytime you're asking me what player do I not want in any given situation, the correct answer is always going to be Brent Miller. It's going to be Tony Chani. Because the way I envision it happening...
Goddamn motherfucker.
...is this. What I envision is that, Tony puts the ball down on the spot, and he takes probably like 15 steps back. He's going to be that guy who just runs from midfield up on the ball. He's going to run up, and like halfway, he'll just stop playing and walk away from the ball, and we'll lose because he forgets to take the shot. And that is the truest and best and most accurate answer for this question, Brent Miller.
Drabs, I'll remind you that Tony Chani probably has a place on the best 11 Crew all-time roster.
Okay. Best 11 what?
What do you mean? I feel like that term is pretty self-explanatory.
It's not the best 11 players. Are you talking about the best 11 choke artists? The best 11 players to not count on in a critical moment?
You
the best
can continue
11 players
to underrate him as much as you want, but you know deep down in your heart that despite the one mistake that everybody likes to hold against him, that the dude was a motherfucking legend and a badass on the field.
Tony Chani definitely makes the best 11 people who have blocked on Twitter. And that's all I'll give him. And furthermore, how dare you? All right. Let's move on to some man balls, lads. So we've got... we had a game, nominally, on Tuesday. Andy, who would you like to award your man balls to this week?
Gosh. I think I want to give a man ball to all of the Crew staff that worked really, really hard to make sure the guys were safe down in the bubble and when they were training back in Columbus in the lead up to this tournament. An operation like the MLS's back tournament doesn't work if there's not a lot of people behind the scenes doing some great work to make it all possible. So I want to give those folks some credit for making sure that our guys were safe.
I like it. Okay. What's your second man ball? You get 2. I don't know if you know this, Andy. Most people have 2 man balls.
I'm thinking hard here.
Okay.
I am going to give my second man ball to Vito Wormhoor because it's a shame that we aren't going to get to see him in action, but he is a really fun follow on Instagram. And, I just kind of had to feel sorry for him because he put on his Insta story. He was, tooling around Columbus in his little, knee scooter and taking pictures of downtown. And it seems like he and his family are really enjoying being here. So, and then I hope that he has a speedy recovery. So Vito's going to get my other man ball.
Nice. Yeah, and it seems like I feel like intuitively the team really appreciates him because they've been specifically singling him out after games and kind of they're holding up a jersey in his honor and stuff, and it's been pretty cool to see that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, Brent, who are your man balls going to this week?
I think I'm gonna give the first one to Artur. Not that anybody really super deserves a man ball for their on-field play, but as one of the better players on the field for us, I'll go ahead and throw him one. And then the second one, I'm going to give to Iro Alza, the construction worker for Turner Construction that was featured in the Massive Report story. I don't know. I just really enjoyed that story and enjoyed learning about him and his life.
Yeah, that came out today, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So if you're on the social medias, you can go find everybody's been sharing links about it. Definitely a good read, remembering that the people who are working there, they're human beings with cool stories and things going on. So, yeah.
Although I will add real quick, Drabs.
Mm-hmm.
How dare Massive Report? If you read this story, you'll notice one little snippet where they say that I forget exactly what the wording is, but they call it Morgan Hughes's grassroots movement. How dare you, Massive Report?
Sometimes people do honor the deceased in ways that they don't necessarily deserve. So this is probably one of those situations. Hashtag rest.
Rest.
Dearly departed Morgan Hughes, while he has done literally nothing in his life to merit any attention or praise, sometimes you just have to throw a dead person a bone. So that's clearly what they were doing. All right. So man balls from me. My first man ball is going to go to Jossie. This was not a great game for anybody. That being said, Jossie had 5 shots on goal. When his penalty kick during regulation got blocked, he had great heads up, got the rebound, and put it away. In fact, that's I feel like your first inclination on a penalty kick when it gets saved is to just sort of stop and deflate, but he came right back and put it away, and that's what even made it possible for the game to ultimately go to penalty kicks. So hats off for that particular moment and awareness. Going along the same lines as Andy, I'll just share my second man ball with the crew player roster collectively. You were world beaters in the group stage. You've been away from your families for weeks now. You put in work basically for the entertainment of a country that needed but did not necessarily deserve to have sports at this point. You really put yourselves into an unenviable position for our benefit. So thank you all for that. All right. Well, that's most of our soccer stuff. So now we get to the ACES Radio After Dark. This is the part that Andy is fearing because he's just terrified that we're going to say some really nasty stuff that's going to impugn his honor.
Oh, man.
As one of the top lads now in the Columbus-Dublin, Ohio community, which is, I believe, how the Memorial Tournament refers to this area. We're now going to get to the part where we talk about your kink. So,
oh man,
the air is yours. Tell us what you are really into and you want to share with the world.
Well, gosh, and I kind of already knew what I was going to talk about coming in, but
it's good to be prepared. That's not what I do when it comes to this podcast.
Well, and I'm preparing by enjoying what I'm going to talk about right now.
You're doing it right now?
I'm doing it right now.
You're engaging in your kink while we're on the air?
I am.
Oh, my God, that's hot.
So my kink, or hobby, if you will, is that I make beer at home. I home brew. I've been doing that for, 9 years. Because, as Julie will be happy to tell the world, I ordered my first brewing kit in the hospital after Colin was born.
You're like, I can clearly see I'm going to need alcohol for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, well, yeah, maybe. I don't know if that was it or if it was just like a knee-jerk reaction to like becoming a second-time father. I don't know what it was, but it was something I had always talked about wanting to try.
Oh, well, that's fantastic. Andy will be back with us hopefully shortly. It appears as though his audio dropped.
Just so you all know, Drabs accidentally kicked him out of the channel.
Oh,
that
God.
wasn't Andy's fault.
That would be hilarious and also unfortunate if that were the case. Let me text him real quick. Yeah, so I mean, we can edit all this out when the time comes. But in the meantime, this is how podcasts work in the new world, right? Okay, apparently Julie said he knows he's reconnecting.
Oh, here we go.
Welcome
Hey,
back.
sorry.
Ladies and
Sorry
gentlemen,
about
once
that.
again, Andy
I'm
Stanky and
back.
his terrible
So-
internet connection, apparently.
Apparently, I think Discord booted me out. I don't know why.
That's all right. We're going to blame it on Drabs.
That's fine.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
where did I cut out? Sorry.
Let's see. You basically said, maybe the realization hitting you of having a second child was a contributing
gotcha.
factor to your burgeoning alcoholism.
Well, and at the same time, I was also kind of getting into the burgeoning craft beer scene in Ohio. We were living up in Northeast Ohio at the time, and there were great breweries like Fatheads and Brew Kettle and Hop and Frog and Great Lakes in Cleveland, and now there's even more places. So I'm trying all these different things, and I got really interested in the process and trying to experiment on my own with making different things. Hey, I wonder if I can make a stout or something that tastes half as good as what I tried from this brewery over here. So I started out really small, just making batches on my stovetop, and after about a year of doing that, I started making beer from grain. So I'd buy grain from a homebrew shop and do a kind of a scaled down system outside with a propane burner, like a big turkey fryer type setup, and slowly but surely got a little bit better with my process and my recipes, and started bringing beer to crew tailgates. In fact, one of the first times I met Morgan and John and Greg and I think Matt Goshert in person, because it was right around 2015. I had brought something I'd made to a playoff game or MLS Cup which didn't happen.
But if it had happened, you would have brought the beer.
Yeah. So I brought some home brew, and even though at the time I don't think we didn't know Morgan or John or anybody very well, because we were just kind of getting into the social culture of crew fandom. Started sharing beer, and beer's kind of a communal beverage. So it's for me, it's fun to make something that I can share with my friends. So I have slowly expanded my my operation. I have I started kegging homebrew, which you keg in like soda, old soda kegs, basically the 5-gallon Cornelius kegs. And our good friend from Holmes County, Dave Ettinger, top woodsman in the game, helped me build the components for my kegerator, and which now takes up a great spot in my basement in New Stank Manor. So yeah, it's just I kind of geek out over it. I could go off on 1,000 different tangents, and I don't want to do that. But yeah. So
yeah, no, Dave is if you're ever thinking to yourself, man, I wish somebody would give me wood, Dave is definitely your guy.
Yeah, he definitely is.
He is a master with his hands. I mean, he can use his hands to turn your wood into something beautiful. Is this the kind of conversation you were hoping to avoid on the podcast, Andy?
No, because it's about our good friend Dave. And
right,
Dave,
yeah.
Dave is everything you're saying about Dave is 100% true.
So, like, how many different varieties of beer would you say you have recipes for currently that you've made at least once?
Well, Darby, it's funny you should mention that because I just happen to have my my brewing recipe software program open.
Oh my God! It's like we prepared this, which we actually
I know.
didn't.
No, we didn't. We didn't actually. Let's see.
And you currently have like a 3 keg set up in your basement.
Yeah, well, 3 taps. The kegerator could hold 6 5-gallon kegs. I never have time to brew that much and have that much, around, but it's feasible. Okay. I would say probably at least 15, 20 different recipes if I'm kind of going down my list here. And some things I've only done once. But I have a few things that I like to repeat, especially some of the seasonal things. And because I have a funny name, I do try to incorporate that into the naming process. So,
I don't think Andy's a funny name.
True. It's not that part though, Darbs. That's funny. So you'll notice that most of my beers involve the word stank in some way, shape, or form. Let's see. The next thing I'm doing. Well, I'll talk about the next thing I'm doing in a bit. But the beer after that, I'm going to do some fall seasonals. I haven't done this for a few years, but I'm going to do a pumpkin ale. I don't know if you're a fan of pumpkin ales, Drabs, or
I'm
Bront.
not. Kristen's a big fan, but myself, I pass over the pumpkins. I'm an Oktoberfest lad when it comes to seasonals. And
I'm not like a huge pumpkin ale guy, but it's a beer that a lot of my friends and family have enjoyed over the years, so I'm bringing it back.
Do you use actual pumpkin or do you just use pumpkin spices?
I try to use like actual like canned pumpkin, and not like the pie mix, but like the actual just plain pumpkin, and then I'll add spices as well.
Okay.
But the pumpkin ale is called Stank-O-Lantern.
Nice.
So that's coming up. I'm going to do... I make a cream ale that I think you've had before.
When we came over to your house, we tried it. It was lovely.
I'm going to add some raspberry to that, and it's going to become Stankleberry.
Nice.
So that's coming up. And then the winter seasonal classic later on in the year, Stank the Halls, will also be making a Thanksgiving debut. I haven't done the spiced beers in a couple of years, so I'm going to bring those back at some point this year. But the next brew coming up, which is actually going to be this weekend, is one of my favorite beers to talk about because it's actually named after Jake.
I'm ready for this.
Jake is my youngest brother, and he and I are 11 years apart in age. So far apart in age that at Endeavor Brewing Company, Austin, the bartender, once asked if I was Jake's uncle, which was not one of my favorite moments at Endeavor Brewing Company. But it's cool. He did caught me around, so he made up for it. But occasionally I am referred to as Jake's uncle, Andy, which doesn't make you feel great. I kind of got a taste of what Darby old jokes felt like in that moment. But we're brewing an Imperial Stout that we affectionately call Jake Wears Jorts, because we have all these great pictures of Jake when he was a little kid wearing like jean shorts, because he was a child of the 90s and that's just what you did. So, and there's a nice alliterative quality to the Jake and the jorts. So it's kind of our tribute to our little brother, who we do love. And we'll bust it out at the 4th annual Stanky Brothers Stoutsmas around Christmas time. So, gonna brew it, age it, and then hopefully tap the keg around Christmas. So,
I know you do some collaboration brewing with your brothers, do you not?
Yeah, whenever they're around. which is a lot easier now because my brother Matt just moved about a mile and a half away up in Powell. So they come over and, they might ask for a specific hop to be used in an IPA or whatever. And so we'll get the ingredients. And now they've started backing me financially since they're around to drink my beer more often, which I appreciate. And Julie also appreciates because unfortunately she's been my primary financial backer all these years. Matt and Jake come over and help me out on Brew Day and contribute ideas. In fact, my brother Matt just had a great idea. You guys, do you remember Salute Your Shorts on Nickelodeon? That might be. It was like a show in the 90s about a summer camp.
Honest. I remember reruns of like freaking My Two Dads or whatever on Nick at Night. Like I remember black and white television shows rerunning on there.
Fair enough. Well, it was just on Nickelodeon. It wasn't Nick at Night, but it was like a kind of like a precursor to what like the Disney like tween shows are like of the time. But it was about a summer camp, and these kids did this like kind of, I don't know if it was a hazing ritual or what, but they did something called an awful waffle where they put a tennis racket on somebody's stomach and then squeeze like maple syrup. So Matt decided we should do like a maple stout called the Awful Waffle, and I said, what if we just make it Jake Wears Jorts but maple and call it Salute Your Jorts, which I think would have been funny. So all the 90s kids will appreciate, I think, the Salute Your Jorts Awful Waffle edition, if we can ever pull that off.
The studio audience is going to love that one in such time as we ever have a sound. Brent?
Drabs, that's all you.
Yeah, and maybe next year. We'll see.
But yeah, so it takes a few hours on a weekend day to make it happen, but it's just kind of a fun thing, and my favorite thing to do is share it with friends and family. So that's kind of what I do. I usually bring something, a growler or bottles to tailgates, or if we have a watch party or something at our place, obviously the kegerator's free reign for all guests at Stank Manor. So.
What a true lad and a wonderful host. So is there any plan to go professional in your brewing career?
Oh man, no way. I don't think I'm that good. I have fun with it, and my friends and family enjoy sampling the wares, but I don't. I'd love to like check out what working in a brewery would be like, and as a brewer and learn. But I don't see myself going pro at any time soon.
Well, that is fair. Not everybody can get paid for engaging in their kink. So that's why sometimes you just leave it at the hobby stage.
And so, it's just a nice distraction sometimes. So.
And we definitely live in a world where we need constant distraction from the hellscape that is our existence.
That's been the challenge during all this time, is not drinking all the beer.
Oh, real talk. Yeah, like I keep going to the store and buying stuff, and it's like, you know what? I don't need to drink all of this beer and hard seltzer and more beer and more hard seltzer. And, ooh, look, there's a flavor of vodka I want. And, Mark just brought over a bottle of Endeavor vodka. I guess I'm going to have to drink that. Yeah. Awesome. Well, so if anybody has any brewing questions, if they're like, hey, I want to get into that kink. I want to share a kink with Andy Stanky. What's the best way for them to reach out to you?
You can always find me on Twitter at stank_lord. I love to talk home brewing and beer in general, and send me a message, or I usually, my Twitter's locked, but if you want to send me a follow request, or if you don't already follow me, then all good.
All right, there you go. Yeah, I forgot to ask Charles last week how people can contact him to talk about beards, but then I realized nobody wants to talk to Charles Camposano about his dirty, pathetic quarantine beard, whereas they might actually want to talk to you as a respected member of the Columbus brewing kink community. All right. Well, let's wrap it up by previewing next. Oh, that's right.
Whoa.
Just like Drab's trying to cut the conversation off too early, I actually had a question.
Oh, I'm sorry, Brent. Yeah,
Jesus.
Please, fire away.
All right. So, as a person who has attempted at least a couple batches of homebrew myself that did not turn out well at all, they were pretty disgusting. I have to ask, like, how do you know if you're getting your recipe right? Like, do you have a lot of failed recipes? And have you gotten to a place now where you can like make a recipe and know that it's going to be at least semi good?
Great question. The software that I use is a program called Beersmith, and there's a ton of different brewing softwares that are out there now. Beersmith's been around a long time. The cool thing about Beersmith is when you go into its recipe designer, you select the style of beer that you're going to make, and then you input your ingredients that you're thinking about, and it will kind of show you on a sliding scale if your bitterness is within acceptable parameters, if the color is in acceptable parameters, if the alcohol is going to be in the correct parameters. And then on each style profile, it gives you kind of the desired flavor profile, typical ingredients. So it really kind of helps you build your recipe just by kind of looking into what each beer style I guess reflects from a flavor and aroma and ingredient standpoint. So that helped me a ton in designing recipes. And for a while, I didn't design recipes of my own. I would buy kits, or there's some great homebrew message boards out there where a lot of people have created their own recipes and people have modified those. And so I've done a lot of borrowing over the years too. So that's kind of how I do that.
So you're not just like throwing random shit together.
No,
and attempting to make something decent.
There's a little method to the madness.
What kind of garbage ass like toilet beer were you trying to make, Brent? That you're just throwing ingredients together.
Drabs, sometimes people who tend to be more creative just have to attempt to create. You don't have a recipe, you don't have like a form. You just do, and you hope that it turns out well. And it doesn't always work out.
I understand. So you're not using your bathtub in your hotel room because you're not bathing anymore, because you bathe in the pool of contagion. So you decided to make beer in your bathtub. That's what I'm hearing.
Well, Drabs, this hotel is so fancy that they do not have bathtubs. They have standing walk-in showers only.
Oh.
No.
So you're trying to make shower
beer? Yeah. Shower beers are great.
Most people drink beer in the shower. They don't generally try to brew beer in there.
Why not both?
I mean, I'll tell you what. Well, I was going to say videotape this effort, but I actually don't want to see any video of you brewing beer in the shower because I'm really afraid of what that's going to mean.
Well, Drabs, I'll be sure to get you that footage as soon as possible.
All right. Do you have any other beer-related questions for Andy?
I do not. I am good.
I want to know, what kind of garbage-ass beer did you make that turned out horrendous, and who died when they drank it?
The worst one was probably when I attempted to make a chocolate stout.
Okay. And what happened?
Yeah. I mean, I don't really know how to describe it. It didn't taste good. That's for sure.
There are no words for what resulted from my effort.
Well, it may not have even been the ingredients that you used. One of the things that I learned early on in home brewing is how important taking care of the yeast that you use is. And yeast have different temperature thresholds, and you have to make sure that when you add your yeast to the beer, that there's enough active yeast cells to consume the available sugar. Because sometimes if you don't pitch enough yeast, the yeast have to kind of work overtime, and that stresses them out and can produce odd flavors. If you ferment too hot or too cold, that can also cause off flavors in the beer. So it may have been your ingredients and recipe may have been awesome, but maybe there's a thing with the yeast or something like that. Those little things can affect it too. A lot of brewers will say that the taking care of the yeast is one of the most important things that you can do. So.
Also, did you sanitize your bucket?
That too.
We cannot over stress the importance of a clean bucket, Brent.
Which bucket are we talking about? Are we talking about the one on the head or the one that the beer was in? Because those are different bucket straps.
Yes.
Well, one was and one was not. I'll let you figure out which is which.
Okay, and also, ew. All right, awesome. Well, thank you for sharing your kink with us, Andy. I know it's a deeply personal and private thing. So for you to be so open about the fact that you enjoy this thing so much is we appreciate that.
I appreciate having the opportunity. I'm not like an expert by any means, but I'm happy to talk homebrew with anybody. So
nice. All right. Well, since there's no soccer to preview for next week or the week after or the week after or the week after, and probably, I don't know, never again, I guess that's it for episode, what is this? This is 152, I think.
Whew.
So maybe we should all just do that thing where we whisper at the end. Because all of Lord Guillermo's people said...
Wait, Drabs, when are we doing another episode?
Oh, that's a good point, Brent, and I hate that you made a good point. I just want...
Jesus.
I'm just like, yay, I'm going to go. Yeah, there's no soccer for at least a month, and what I think we figured out early on in the quarantine is that we're not really even vaguely interesting if there's no soccer to talk about, so we're not even going to try.
That implies that we're vaguely interesting when there is soccer, which is absolutely not true.
Yeah, I mean, some people consider us vaguely interesting. Basically the people who are on the podcast right now. Although I don't want to speak too
your
much.
horse does not understand English.
I hate you so much. So very, very much. But yeah, I'm assuming at this point we'll probably go about a month to the, if the rumors are true and things fire up in August, we'll hop back on the airwaves and talk about soccer's and what's coming up and that sort of thing. Hopefully at that point it's a situation where it's, ethical and reasonable and John will be interested in joining us and we can have the whole gang back. But yeah, for the time being, we're going to go take a little break for a bit again. We'll let you know when it's time to start recording again. We'll drop things on the Twitters and whatnot. But yeah, we're going to take a couple of weeks off. You all go enjoy time with friends and family. Go talk to your crew ticket reps because apparently they're starting to reach out to people and sell tickets for next season.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they haven't called me. They haven't emailed me, which I consider to be rude as, the guy who answered all the Save the Crew emails. I feel like I deserve a little extra something.
Well,
but
I mean, in their defense, they probably assume that you'll be dead before the stadium's open.
This is very true.
Well, are you sure they're not emailing team@savethecrew.com to try to get in touch with you?
Ooh, here.
Have you been checking the account?
The account's still set up in my phone. I still get notifications, but I think the only thing that apparently somebody logged into the Instagram account the other day, so I guess maybe I should check and see if that's been hacked yet. Also, somebody emailed. Let's see. It was about a week ago. asking if we had any Save the Crew merch yet, still. And yeah, that's not a thing.
Well, you're going to have to talk to Keith Noss about that.
Yeah, he's probably got a big stack of scarves. That'd be about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I heard that you were doing another limited run of the community kit. Can you confirm?
I can confirm that is definitely not happening. Because no. But I do believe if you would like to design your own jersey, Brent Miller, and sell it, that is something I will happily tweet about and do absolutely nothing else in support of.
There you go.
Because basically I'm going back to being a casual fuckboy and a Twitter shit talker. So that's all I got. Okay. Brent, is there anything else I forgot? Because basically you're just here to remind me of all the things I'm not doing. So I should probably check in with you just and be like, okay, what else? Is that it?
No.
Are you going to sit there silently, you son of a bitch?
I was literally just talking before you said that, but, whatever. Nah, I think you got everything this time. I think we're good.
Okay. Cool. All right. Well, then we'll do a whisper thing where we close out the show and we all whisper clever things over each other and nobody can actually hear what any of us is saying because all of Lord Guillermo's people said, Tony has a kink for your boss.
Yeah. Wear a mask.
Oh, that was a good one, actually. Well done. I can't believe you did something serious, though. But yes. And Johnny sucks. Goodbye.
Mayfield